The Somavamsi. The 200-year reign of the Somavamsis is a glorious epoch in Odisha's history. Kalinga, Utkala, Kongoda, and Kosala were unified and placed under a single political authority for the first time. The uniform administration pattern eliminated anarchy and confusion throughout the state, paving the way for a cultural synthesis that resulted in the emergence of a distinct Orya culture. During the Somavamsis, Odishan temple architecture took shape, and the kingdom experienced peace and prosperity. The origin of the Somavamsi. From the middle of the 9th century CE to the early 12th century CE, the Somavamsis, also known as Panduvamsis, ruled over Odisha. They initially ruled over a region known as Dakhina Kosal or South Kosala in the 7th and 8th centuries CE, corresponding to the Raipur and Bilaspur districts of Madhya Pradesh and the Sambalpur and Kalahandi districts of Odisha. Sirpur, a town in the Raipur district, was the capital of the South Kosala Somavamsis. This dynasty was founded by Udyana. Tivardeva, the line's fourth king, was its most powerful monarch. He established his hegemony over all of Kosala. He expanded his territory westward to the Vindhyas. However, his efforts to bring Kongoda under his political sway in the east were unsuccessful. Tivardeva reigned between 700 and 725 CE. At the dawn of the 9th century CE, Govinda L10, the Rashtrakuta king, invaded the Somavamsi kingdom. For a time, the Somavamsis were subject to the Rashtrakutas' hegemony. After Govindadit III's in 814 CE, the Somavamsis gained their independence from the Rashtrakutas' hegemony. However, they were soon threatened by another power, the Kalachuris of Ratnapur, a place in the Bilaspur district of Madhya Pradesh. By the middle of the 9th century CE, the Somavamsis were expanding eastward, most likely in response to the Kalchuri threat. Balarjuna Sivagupta, the last known king of Somavamsis in South Kosal, died in 810 CE. Following him, there is a more than half-century-long genealogical void. With the emergence of Janamejai I in the final quarter of the 9th century CE, a continuous genealogical line of the Somavamsis is established up to the beginning of the 12th century CE. Sivagupta is mentioned in the inscription of Janamejai I, the builder of the Somavamsi power in Odisha. Odisha's Somavamsi rulers alternated between the titles Mahabhvapta and Mahasivagupta. Apart from these facts, the same dynastic name strongly implies that Janamejai I was a descendant of the South Kosala Somavamsis. The Somavamsi rulers. The Janamejai I Mahabhvagupta. Janamejai I became the first ruler of the Somavamsi dynasty of Kosala after he was driven out of Dakshina Kosala, which comprised the undivided Sambalpur and Bolangiri districts of western Odisha that he dubbed Kosala and whose capital was Suvarnapura, modern Sonepur. Janamejai I desired to clash with the Bhanjas of Khinjali Mandai, who were the feudatory of the Bhamakaras of Tosli, after consolidating his empire. Ranbhanjdeva, the Bhaja king, fell victim to Janamejai, who dealt the former a crushing defeat and annexed the Bodfulbani area to his kingdom. This paved the way for Utkala's conquest. Additionally, Janamejai I desired to expand his influence over Utkala. He was instrumental in establishing Tribhuvana Mahadevi to alias Prithvi Mahadevi, Subkardeva IV's widow queen, on the Bhauma's throne. Though he defeated the king of Odra, he may have made peace with him as a result of having to deal with the Kalachuris of Ohla. His attempt to extend his authority up to Utkala, on the other hand, was certainly commendable. Additionally, Janamejai I subdued the Kalachuris. Subhatunga is said to have defeated the Chedias in the record of his son and successor Yayati I. of Kalachuris. Janmejaya I was a powerful Somavamsi dynasty ruler. He assumed lofty titles such as Parmeswara, Parmabhattarka, and Triklingadhipti, among others. The Mahasivagupta Yayati I. Yayati I succeeded Janmejaya I on the throne. He not only solidified his empire but also pursued an expansionist policy. Soon after his accession, he relocated his capital from Suvarnapura to Vinitpura, which has been identified as Binka, a town located approximately 25 kilometers from Sonepur on the banks of the river Mahandi. He relocated the capital to Yayatinagara near Bod 15 years later. Biswarup Das, on the other hand, associates Yayatinagara with Jajpur, which was also known as Yayatitirtha. He had a schism with the Kayacharis. His two copper plate grants, as well as a charter for his son and successor, state that he captured 32 elephants and rescued captive women who were being forcibly removed from Kosala by Yuvraja, the Kalchuri king of Dehla. Yayati I not only rescued the women and elephants of Kosala, but also murdered the protector and set fire to a portion of the Kalchuri country, according to the charters. Thus, it can be stated with a reasonable degree of certainty that he subdued the Kalachuris. Yayati I's crowning achievement was the annexation of the Bhauma kingdom. Though the circumstances surrounding Yayati I's occupation of the Bhauma throne are unknown, it is certain that the territory was under his authority. He granted a village Chandragrama in Dakshina Tosli in his 9th regnal year to a Brahman named Sankhapani of Odradesha, as recorded in his Katak plate charter. This demonstrates that he had extended his influence all the way to Tosli. Yayati I played a significant role in subjugating the Bhanjas. He offered a village named Gandharadi in the later Bhanja period as a gift in the Gandhatapti Mandala, as evidenced by his copper plate grant of the 15th regnal year. Gandharadi is located 12 miles south of Bod. It occurred during Satrubhanja's reign, when he was defeated by Yayati I. If this were not the case, he would not have been able to grant a village in the heart of the Bhanja territory. Yayati was a valiant warrior. Not only did he fight the Kalachuris, but he also subdued the Bhanjas and ruled the Bhauma kingdom of Tosli. The Bhimartha Mahasivagupta I. Following Yayati I, his son Bhimartha ascended to the throne of Somavamsi. His political career is obscured by the records of his time. According to the Kalchuri king Yayati I's inscription on the Bilhari stone, Lakshman Raja, who ruled at Tripuri from approximately 945 to 970 CE, worshipped Someswara, and with the effigy of Kaliya wrought of jewels and gold obtained from the prince of Odra after defeating the lord of Kosala. This demonstrates that Odra had become a part of the Kosala kingdom by that time. The defeat of Kosala's king and the removal of the effigy of Kaliya, the serpent, from Odra by Lakshmariya Raja demonstrate unequivocally that Odra was under Kosala's control, and most likely that the appointment of subordinate rulers for Odra began with Bhimartha. In Dharmartha's Khandapara plates, he is praised as religious, courageous, and valorous who performed marvelous acts and attained the status of Devraja, or Indra. Without a doubt, his reign contributed to the consolidation of the Somavamsi empire and brought the country peace and tranquility. The Dharmaratha, Bhimaratha's successor, was unquestionably a powerful ruler. His grant of a village in Antaruda Visaya, Antarudra Pragna of the undivided Puri district, demonstrates unequivocally that he was the Bhauma kingdom's master at the time. He is referred to as the second Parsurma in the Brahmeswara temple inscription. Perhaps he subdued the Pala power in Gauda and fought valiantly against the south's eastern Chalukyas. The Nahusa. Dharmaratha's brother, Nahusa, succeeded him to the throne of Kosala after he died without issue. His tenure was relatively uneventful. His inefficiency may have contributed to his unpopularity. Perhaps he was assassinated by Indraratha, another of Dharmaratha's brothers who succeeded him on the throne. The Indraratha. Dharmaratha had appointed Indraratha as Kalinga's governor. Perhaps Indraratha's ambition to ascend to the throne of Kosala drove him to confront Nahusa. As a result, the latter was assassinated alongside his uncle Abhimanyu. Because Indraratha was regarded as a usurper, his name is omitted from the Somavamsi charters. He was defeated and probably killed by Rajendra Chola. The Chandihara Yayati II. Rajendra Chola's assassination of Indraratha at Yayatinagara sowed anarchy and confusion within the Somavamsi dynasty. At that critical point, the ministers installed Chandihara Yayati II as king of Kosala, the son of Abhimanyu and grandson of Vichitravira, a lineal descendant of Janmeja. With his accession, Yayati II focused his attention on the kingdom of Utkala, which had become vacant following the death of Dharma Mahadevi, the Bhaumakara's last ruler. Yayati II immediately took possession of it. As a result, Utkala was completely subjugated and absorbed into the kingdom of Kosala. Chandihara Yayati II was the Somavamsi dynasty's mighty ruler. According to his charter, his footstool is kissed by the great jewels of all kings or subordinate kings, who in character resembled such renowned kings as Nala, Nahusa, Mandhata, Dilipa, Bharatha, and Bhagiratha. He is also credited with conquering Karnataka, Lata, Gujarat, Dravida country, Kachi, Gauda, Radha, and Triklinga and assuming the title Maharaja in his records. Naturally, the conquest of the aforementioned lands is a poetic exaggeration. He appears to have maintained a friendly relationship with Rashtrakutas, as his records make no mention of himself or his army transporting arms to Kosala or Utkala during the reign of Krishna III. After Krishna III, no Rashtrakuta king has mentioned the latter's victory over Kosala or Utkala. Yayati II was an ardent supporter of Brahmanism. According to tradition, he invited 10,000 Brahmins from Kanyakubja, Kannauj, to Jajpur to perform the Dasaswamedha sacrifice. It was a significant milestone in Odisha's cultural heritage, and the memory of Yayati II's noble work is still reflected in every corner of the state during marriage ceremonies and at the time of giving Pinda at Navigya in Jajpur. Yayati II is also credited with completing the Lingaraj temple in Bhubaneswar during his successor Udyotakesari's reign. Naturally, Yayati II's family deity was Panchamvari Bhadrambika, a manifestation of goddess Durga. Yayati II was the dynasty's greatest ruler. He firmly established order in an empire that was rife with anarchy and confusion. From the Bay of Bengal in the east to Sambalpur in the west, and from Dandakabhukti to Ganjam in the south, his vast empire stretched. Brahmanism flourished in Odisha under his patronage. The Udyotakesari Mahabhagupta. Udyotakesari, Yayati II's successor, was a deserving son of an illustrious father. He made amends with Karna, the Kalchuri ruler who had invaded the Somavamsi kingdom in the first place. Udyotakesari later invaded Dehla and defeated it. Similarly, the enmity between Gauda and Kosala ended with the defeat of the Pala dynasty's Vigrahpala II. As a result of the attacks from various directions, Udyotakesari divided his kingdom into two parts, leaving the Kosala portion in the care of his grandfather Abhimanyu and ruling over the Utkala portion himself. He also completed the Lingaraj temple in Bhubaneswar. The Janmeja II. With the accession of Janmeja II, Udyotakesari's son, the Somavamsi dynasty began to disintegrate. Someswardeva, the Chandika Naga ruler during his reign, sent his general Yasurajdeva of the Telugu Choda family to occupy eastern Kosala. By that time, the western Kosala had also fallen into the Kalachuri's hands. Janmeja too also faced an invasion by Raja II of Kalinga, the Ganga king. All of these invasions caused Janmeja distress, and he died following the Ganga invasion. The Puranjay succeeded Janmeja too. During his reign, the Ratnagiri inscription states that he maintained control over his feudatory chiefs. Additionally, he successfully resisted the invasions of the kings of Gauda, Dehla, Kalinga, and Vanga. It appears as though the above-mentioned powers invaded the Somavamsi kingdom and paved the way for its demise by exploiting the Somavamsis' weakness. The Karnadeva was the last surviving ruler of the Somavamsi dynasty and Puranjay's brother. Though he is praised in his records as a great ruler with complete control over his feudatories, this is not true. According to his fragmented inscription preserved in Bhubaneswar's Jayadav Museum, his kingdom extended up to Balasore district. From Gandibeda village, the inscription is found, which was Uttara Tosli's final boundary. Jaisimha, the feudatory of Bengal's Rampala, ruled the Dandaka Bhukti Mandala at the time. Chodgangdeva attacked Utkala multiple times during his reign. The Ratnagiri inscription and the Ramcharita of Sandhyakara Nandi both attest to the fact that Krishnadeva, Karnadeva's astute and capable minister, rescued Utkala from the Ganga's onslaught with the assistance of the Palas. However, this resistance was frail, and the Somavamsi kingdom eventually fell to the Gangas, who established their dominance over Utkala. The administration of the Somavamsis. Odisha's political unification under the Somavamsis resulted in the establishment of an efficient administration. The Somavamsi kings periodically relocated their capital for political reasons. Due to the lack of a permanent capital, they issued charters from various locations including Vinitpura, Mursima, Suvarnapura, and Yayatinagara. Yayatinagara, colloquially known as Jajpur, is well known as the capital of the Somavamsis. The king's position. In terms of administrative structure, the king held the highest position. While kingship was unquestionably hereditary, ministers occasionally had a say in the selection of a king, as was the case with Yayati too. When a king was a minor, he was regent by a member of the royal family. The king possessed unrestricted royal authority. The king generously granted grants to the merchant community in order to promote trade and commerce within the country. They granted lands to the Brahmins to promote learning. They patronized Brahmins and performed several Vedic sacrifices, including the Ashwamedha sacrifice, in order to spread Brahmanism throughout the land. Additionally, they constructed a sizable number of Saiva temples to accomplish the same goal. All of these activities demonstrate that, while the Somavamsi kings were powerful, they were not despotic, rather, they were liberals who looked out for the welfare of their subjects. The ministers and government officials. Numerous important ministers and officers aided the king. Among the notable ministers were Mantritilka, Chief Minister, Mahasandhi Vigrahika, Minister of War and Peace who was also responsible for the charter's preparation, and Mahakshapatlika, Minister, preparing charter. The Mahasenpati, Commander-in-Chief, was responsible for promoting religion and morality within the army. Additionally, several officers such as Samhartri, Sannidhatri, Autaka, Niyuktaka, Dandapasika, Mahakashpataya, Mahakshapataladhyaksha, Chattas, Bhattas, Ranka, and Rajputra were appointed. The Somavamsis divided their kingdom into mandalas, each of which represented a province. A mandala was further subdivided into several bhuktis, with each bhukti subdivided into bhoga, khada, and grama, the smallest administrative unit under the Somavamsi kings. The rulers of Somavamsi maintained substantial standing armies comprised of infantry, cavalry, and elephantry. The kings were the supreme commanders of the military forces, leading them into battle. The cultural significance of the Somavamsi rule. The Somavamsis have made significant cultural contributions in a variety of ways. The Somavamsis embraced Varnashrama Dharma, or the traditional division of society into 4 varas as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and accorded Brahmanas the highest status. By performing Vedic sacrifices and facilitating the migration of Brahmanas from northern India via generous land grants, the Somavamsi rulers facilitated the Brahminization of Odisha's socio-religious life as well as the assimilation of North Indian Sanskritic culture into Odishan culture. Women held a respectable position in Somavamsi society. Several of the Somavamsi queens accomplished significant tasks such as temple construction. Queen Kolavati Devi, Udyota Keshri's mother, built the Brahmeshwar temple in Bhubaneswar. Nonetheless, women's status appears to have deteriorated during this time period. Prostitution and the Devdasi practice, dedicating maidens to temples, were prevalent during this period. Karnadeva, the last Somavamsi king, married Karpurasri, a dancing girl who was the daughter of Amhari or Devdasi. The Somavamsi rulers' religious life. The rulers of Somavamsi were devout Saivites. They contributed to the growth and spread of Saivism by erecting Siva temples and generously granting land to Saiva temples, priests, and ascetics. As a result, several Saiva gurus, including Satsivacharya, Rathmacharya, and Acharya Gagana Siva came from far and wide to Odisha and was patronized by the Somavamsi rulers. Gagana Siva constructed the Samswar temple in Ranipur Jarial with the assistance of Janmeja I. Yayati I constructed Mukteshwar's magnificent Saiva temple. Yayatilal initiated the construction of the colossal Saiva temple of Lingaraj, which was completed by Udyotkeshri. While the Somavamsis were devout Saivites themselves, they continued the Bhonkara tradition of religious tolerance. Other sects such as Jainism, Vaishnavism, and Saktism were tolerated. Navmuni and Varbhuja caves were carved by King Udyota Keshri for Jana ascetics. The art and architecture. The Somavamsis left an indelible mark on art and architecture. Odishan temple architecture began in the Salodbhava period and reached its pinnacle of perfection near the end of the Somavamsi period. By the end of the Somavamsi period, the Odishan temple had taken on its final form. Though not insignificant, architectural activities in the later period were more concerned with elaboration than with the introduction of novel features or forms indicating new directions of development. Among the numerous temples constructed by the Somavamsis, Lingaraj, Brahmeshwar, Mukteshwar, and Rajrani are the most magnificent, all in Bhubaneswar. Each one is a work of art in Odishan architecture. The representations of these temples are also among the finest examples of sculpture. So, this is the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. To get the note of this video, scan the above QR code or check description to get the link. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day.